everyone, it's Maya. Welcome to Outside the Drama, the podcast where we tell it like it is and cut out the drama. No psychological mumbo-jumbo, okay? Let me just get comfortable today, because this is a topic you could talk about for hours, and I don't like to rush. So let's chat calmly, like over coffee with a friend. Oh, and by the way, my coffee's always with milk. But back to the point. Like with a friend who just got back from a date and says, Maya, what's going on? I feel like she's testing me and I have no idea what's up. Exactly. The question is, do women test men? And if so, why? What does it look like? Is it manipulation or just a human thing? And most importantly, what can you, as a guy, do about it so you don't feel like you're in a game where you don't know the rules? Though, by the way, you really should know them. To keep it short, because I won't lie to you, yes, tests exist, especially at the beginning of a relationship, pretty much always. But they're not what you think, and they're not always bad. So let's break it down. Let's start with the basics. Why do women test men? No, it's not a conspiracy. We don't sit in a group and plan how to check him today. In most cases, it happens unconsciously. You get it? It's like a reflex, something that comes from our experiences, fears, needs, and how the world taught us to be careful. We have questions like, are you stable? Can you talk things through when it gets tough? Do you act the way you talk? And are you authentic? These aren't questions we ask out loud. It's observation. And like any observation, it often leads to conclusions. Imagine you're entering a new relationship. You're a woman. You've had a few stories where someone promised you the world and it ended in disappointment. Or you just want to know who you're dealing with. So you don't ask directly, hey, are you emotionally stable? Instead, you observe. Sometimes we gently set up situations to see how you'll react. And yes, you're right. These actions sometimes look like tests because a test isn't always a deliberate move. Seriously, sometimes it's just a situation where you see how someone reacts, and a reaction says more than words. Honestly, these tests say a lot about you. It's not that a woman is testing you because she wants to dominate you. Though, yes, that happens too, I know. Most often, these are defensive reflexes coming from past relationships, broken trust, disappointments, and sometimes a lack of self-confidence. And no, it's not your fault, but it's also not your job to fix it. Your only job, if you can even call it that, is to be yourself and notice what in this relationship is real and what's already a game. Now, before we go further, let's be honest, not all tests are conscious. Many of them are just mechanisms we have built in. From a psychological point of view, it often comes from a need for emotional safety. Women, just like men, want to know if they can trust. Is the guy mature? Can he handle his emotions? Is he consistent? Because imagine, you're seeing someone who says, I'm patient. I don't have a problem with little things. And then, when something doesn't go his way, like she changes plans at the last minute, he shuts down, gets passive-aggressive, or starts being sarcastic. That's not a test. That's observation. Is he really who he says he is? And it works both ways. Trust me. Men test women too, sometimes unconsciously. You check if she's flexible, if she has a sense of humor, if she's not too demanding. But for you, it often looks like, let's see how she reacts to my joke. Or, can she handle my friends? It's the same mechanism, looking for compatibility. But for women, it's often more subtle, because we're taught not to be too direct. So instead of asking straight up, are you responsible? We observe how you handle little challenges. For example, you're on a date. She's telling you about her tough day, and you immediately jump in with advice. You should do this and that. That's not a test of how fast you solve problems. That's not what she's looking for. It's more about, can he just listen, or does he always have to be the problem solver? Because sometimes we need support, not instructions. It's not manipulation. It's just a need to be understood. And now let's slowly move to the harder part. When do tests become manipulation? Because not everything is innocent. There are situations where it turns toxic, and we'll talk about that too. But first, let's see what it looks like in the healthy version, because that's the vast majority of cases. Healthy tests aren't a game. They're a need for understanding, okay? Imagine you've been seeing each other a few times. Everything's going smoothly. There's chemistry, laughter, good conversations, and suddenly she does something that throws you off a bit, like being late for a meeting. Not 2 hours, but 20 minutes. She apologizes, explains that something came up. You waited and your head was full of thoughts. That's understandable. I mean, who likes waiting 20 minutes on a date? But seriously, it's not about the waiting. She's not checking if you like waiting. She's checking if your reactions are emotionally mature. Do you say something? Do you stay silent? Do you roll your eyes or calmly say that punctuality matters to you? Because understand, if you let your emotions take over, you've already failed that test. See the difference? And it's not about catching you in the act. More often, it's her way of seeing how you handle little frustrations. Because for her, it's very important information. Are you someone who can manage emotions? Or do you just go on autopilot with anger? Let's say you have a little argument about something trivial, anything. For her, it's a good moment to check if you're emotionally stable. Seriously, she'll do it at the first opportunity. So here's some good advice. Don't let your emotions take over. And definitely don't try to win in that situation, because there are no winners here. It's about getting to know each other and moving through life together in harmony. And it's not malice. It's a subconscious question. Can I be myself with this guy? Sometimes late, sometimes chaotic, and not be judged right away? If your reaction is mature, and for example, you say calmly but firmly, "It's okay, I get it, but let me know next time," she feels you're stable. If you pretend everything's perfect, but inside you're boiling, she'll sense it. And it's not a test of, are you nice? It's a test of authenticity. And what about finances? Oh, right. Sometimes she'll ask about your plans, how you handle life, about work, about what you think about shared expenses in the future. She'll suggest a trip somewhere and see if you can organize it yourself, take control, and take responsibility for both of you, not to judge you as a provider. More to see if you think long-term, if you're responsible, and if she can just feel safe with you. Because a relationship isn't just dates. It's also life, bills, and decisions. And if your answer is honest, without bragging or dodging the topic, she feels she can build something real with you. See? These tests are often just a way to gather information about you, not to cross you off, but to see if you fit together on a deeper level. Now let's move to the harder part. When do tests become manipulation? Because not everything is innocent. And then there's the mistake many guys make, thinking it's just her way of checking if I care, when in reality, it's already a game for control. A healthy test is one that comes from curiosity and a need for safety. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't make you feel like you're walking on a minefield. It just helps both of you understand if this makes sense. But manipulation, that's a different story. That's when a woman or anyone uses tests to control you, to get a reaction that gives her the upper hand. For example, she deliberately makes you jealous, not by accidentally mentioning a friend, but by regularly, intentionally dropping lines like, "My coworker is so funny. He always knows what to say." And she watches if you get mad. if you start trying harder. That's not a test of your confidence. That's a way to push you into defense mode and make you feel like you have to fight for her attention. Another example, she asks about your past, ex-relationships, jobs, finances, but not to get to know you, just to have ammunition for later. Why did you break up with that one? Why did you change jobs? If it's genuine curiosity, okay. But if it's an interrogation, and then that information comes back in arguments as, see, you always do this, that's a red flag. That's not a test of maturity. That's an attempt to gather data to have power over you. And one more thing, manipulative tests often take the form of an emotional roller coaster. One moment, it's great, close, intimate. Then suddenly she pulls away, doesn't reply, is cold. And she watches if you'll chase, beg for attention, or lose your cool. That's not checking your patience. That's a way to get you hooked on her moods, to make you feel like your well-being depends on her. Such behaviors often come from a woman's low self-esteem. She doesn't feel good enough, so she tests to see how much she can get out of you. And that's not healthy. Oh no, that's toxic because it puts you in a position where you constantly have to prove your worth. And here, my friend, you have the right to say stop, because this is no longer a conversation. This is an audit. And healthy testing is just observation. Are you authentic? Do you have your own opinion? Can you say no? And I want to stress, with respect. Are you emotionally predictable? And that's really important. But hardly anyone talks about it, unfortunately. By the way, I once had a friend who always pretended everything was okay, and then he'd explode. And you know what? That never passed any test, because nothing ruins a relationship like the feeling, I never know how he'll react. And such a test often isn't a question, but a situation. So how do you deal with tests, the healthy and the unhealthy ones? Now let's get practical, because theory is theory. But what can you actually do when you feel like you're being tested? First, don't panic. Not every little incident is a test. Sometimes it's just life. She was late because something really came up. Don't assume it's a game. That'll just wind you up. Okay. Second, be authentic. That's the key. If something doesn't sit right with you, say it. Calmly, without aggression. Hey, you were late. I get it. But I like to know what to expect. Let me know next time. That shows you have boundaries. And remember, what I'm about to say is important. The more submissive you are, and the more you agree to everything, the more she'll take advantage of you. Directly proportional to your yes. Seriously. That's how it is. You'll lose her respect. Trust me. Third, ask questions. If something seems off, don't guess. Ask, why is this important to you? If it's a healthy test, she'll explain. If it's manipulation, she'll start dodging the answer or turn it against you. Classic. Fourth, set your boundaries. You don't have to pass exams. If you feel like the relationship is a constant test, say it. I don't like feeling like I'm being tested. I prefer an honest conversation. If that doesn't help, that's a sign it's not for you. Fifth, watch for patterns. A one-off situation, fine. Chill. But if it keeps happening, jealousy, withdrawal, interrogating, that's not a test. That's a pattern that can burn you out. My advice? Run. And remember, you test too. Everyone does. Guys check if a woman is loyal, has a sense of humor, is independent. That's normal. But the key is intention. Does it help you get to know each other, or is it about control? And finally, because I've been talking a lot, not every woman tests. Well, okay, maybe about 95%, yeah. Not every woman does it consciously, and not every woman has bad intentions. But you also have the right to see what's healthy and what crosses the line. A healthy relationship doesn't require you to constantly prove your worth. You don't need to pass exams for someone to want to be with you. And tests that are just meant to embarrass you, mess with your emotions, or throw you off balance, those aren't tests. They're manipulation. And if you feel that, don't ignore it. Ask yourself one question. Do I feel like a partner with this person? Or maybe like a project to be evaluated? Because in a healthy relationship, no one has to guess the rules. You're just there, and you learn each other as you go. That's it. That's all for today. Thanks for being here with me. Write in the comments what you think. Have you ever felt tested? How did you react? Or maybe you didn't even notice the test? I'd also appreciate a like and a subscription. It really matters to me and motivates me to keep going. This was Outside the Drama. I'm Maya. See you next time.